Hello everyone, I'm Chris, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Backlight, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our What's New and What's Ahead webinar for Iconik and Wildmoka. Whether you're an existing customer, if you're evaluating the platform, or you're a channel partner, thank you for being here. We've got a lot to cover today and some demos to show you that I think you'll find exciting. So I wanted to start with just a very quick look back at NAB, because what we heard on the show floor this year is part of the reason why this session is happening today. We had hundreds of conversations over 4 days with many different people from different industries, all with different problems. But one theme that came up so consistently, it became hard to ignore, was that teams aren't just looking for another tool, they are drowning in tools. There are already too many disconnected systems, too much manual stitching, and not enough signal about what's actually happening with the media. The conversations that really landed hardest for us weren't about features, they were about consolidation, about finding a platform that sits in the middle of everything they already have and makes it work better without ripping everything out. And that is one of the core problems that Iconik and Wildmoka solve together. And what we're showing you today is the clearest version of that answer we've ever shipped. Because Iconik is an incredibly strong creative operations platform where teams can ingest, manage, govern, and review their media. And Wildmoka is then the strongest place to activate that media. That's publishing clips, reformatting for social, and scaling live to digital workflows. Separately, both are genuinely great, but together they cover more of that full content lifecycle. That's from ingest through to management, review, and publishing with one platform, fewer handoffs between those workflow stages, and less complexity overall. And what we're walking through today connects to that thread. So we're going to cover the new Iconik Publish panel, which is the feature that closes the loop between these two products. We'll get into some significant review and collaboration updates, including a couple of capabilities that really push Iconik into the production grade space, all within the same platform used to manage media at scale. And we'll focus on some new updates around ISG, metadata, and access control in Iconik, and how they can help teams stay aligned and capable. Then we'll move into Wildmoka, where we'll show how Clip Studio has been rebuilt and what features come along with that work that we've been doing. After all of that, our field CTO, Mike Schleminski, will join us for a live Q&A. So if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, and I'm sure that you will, please do add them to the questions tab on the bottom right of the screen. We'll collect questions as we go and answer as many as we can in the Q&A section after the updates. So let's get into it. We'll start with the biggest new feature we're releasing this quarter. Iconik is the creative operations platform where your media lives, gets reviewed, and gets approved. But an asset being approved doesn't mean that the work has finished. Everyone can be happy with the asset, but then it needs to go out to the world. It has to go through that last mile of media distribution. So typically someone exports the asset from Iconik, someone else then re-uploads it elsewhere, perhaps to YouTube, to Instagram. But in the process, someone might rename it with an incorrect title. The metadata that traveled through the whole production process might get stripped out at some point, or changed, or just lost. And each of these manual processes that bridge your production system and your distribution destinations can break a little bit differently each time, which means nobody's quite sure where the failure is until the content doesn't show up where it's supposed to or in the way it's supposed to. And this is exactly what the new Iconik Publish panel fixes. The Publish panel in Iconik is a native publishing interface built directly into the browser. So from a final approved asset, you can configure the thumbnail, select the destination, set the published metadata, and deliver to multiple social, OTT, and owned platforms without leaving the system with a media and its record lives. The full Wildmoka activation stack is running behind the scenes for things like templates, branding, and the multi-destination delivery. But the regular day-to-day Iconik user just sees one clean panel with published destinations set and ready to go. That means there are no exports, no re-uploads, and none of those manual handoffs where problems can occur. So to show this in action, I'd like to briefly show a video from our Senior Technical Account Manager at Backlight, Josh.
Hello, I am Josh. I'm a technical account manager at Backlight, and I am going to show you the Iconik Publish panel. So I have an asset here in Iconik that is ready to be published. When I open this asset, I have an icon for Publish. When I open this Publish panel, this is where I will define where I'm going to send it to. So for this one, I'm going to send it to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube, all with one click. When I load those destinations, we have the metadata fields required for each of those destinations, along with where they will go and any character count limitations, should there be on any of those fields. For a thumbnail, I can either scrub to a section of the video, take a snapshot of that still. I can upload one from my local computer, or I can browse any asset within Iconik. So I can either manually enter this information, or I can use a publish template. What a publish template will do is it will predefine any of the destinations that we will be sending to, as well as pull any metadata from a view already created within Iconik. I'm going to switch this to YouTube so we can get a public link and see how it's working. When I click this publish button, this is going to package all this metadata, the asset, and any thumbnail, and send that directly to YouTube. So no more downloading content, taking it over to YouTube, uploading it into YouTube, typing that metadata in there, and then making it public. So when I publish, we have this Relations tab. This will show me all the times that this asset has been published. When I open that, we can now see, here's my video that I published. And in addition, we can put branding on top of it. So we can do logos, bugs, dynamic overlays, pre-rolls, post-rolls. So if we want to keep that content in Iconik pristine, but we want branding when we publish out to social media, we can define those in the publish templates. So in addition to social media, we have a pretty diverse number of destinations that we can send to, including CMSs, OTT platforms, and a whole bunch of other ones. If you're interested in any of those, let's have a chat. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Josh. So again, what this workflow completes is that full lifecycle story. Iconik has always been genuinely strong at ingest, management, and review. That's where we've invested for years. The publish panel just adds another string to that bow. It's ingest, manage, review, and publish. It's going from approved asset to live destination, all inside one platform. If you're interested in adding the publish panel to your Iconik UI, it will be available within the coming weeks. Please reach out to your sales or to your CSM to learn more. Now, I'd like to move on to discuss media review in Iconik. What's exciting about Iconik's review and approval workflows is that they have always happened inside the platform where the media lives. They're not bolted on, they're not happening in a separate tool. And what's exciting this quarter is that we've pushed those review capabilities significantly further into territory that used to belong to dedicated review tools. Historically, the teams with some of the most demanding review requirements, like VFX houses or broadcast post, high-end commercial production, they had to step outside of their MAM to do serious review work. That's things like full fidelity image sequence playback or multi-channel audio monitoring, forensic watermarking, DRM protected screeners. These are capabilities that live in specialist tools with all of the context switching and handoff friction that comes with them. We've spent the last few months closing that gap. The updates we're about to walk through are about making Iconik the place where production grade review can happen alongside media management. Not in a system that you have to leave when the work gets serious. So to start off, there are two additions to Iconik security capabilities that we're releasing that we are really proud of. Firstly, we're bringing DRM or digital rights management to the Iconik platform. Enabling this will mean that content shared from Iconik can be protected, so it can only play inside Iconik. Screen capture and screen sharing are blocked. And access can be revoked remotely if distribution conditions change. So for those teams handling pre-release, premium IP or rights-restricted content, this capability could be the difference between sharing confidently and not being able to share at all. Forensic watermarking goes further. With this turned on, every shared proxy that leaves Iconik can carry an invisible per-frame identifier designed to survive compression, re-encoding, and even off-screen capture. So if content does leak, the watermark traces it back to the exact source, even from a short clip or a single frame. So for any team handling sensitive pre-release or high-value content, think studio material, product launches, brand campaigns, these features are how you protect it during review and trace it if it ever gets out. Moving on, I wanted to touch on the Iconik Player. Now, for those who don't know, the Iconik Player is our desktop application for reviewing master quality originals. Think EXRs, ProRes, DNxHD, and other professional finishing formats that browsers simply can't handle, all in full resolution and full frame rate. Essentially, it's the ability to review your media the way it's meant to be seen. And this quarter, we've pushed the Iconik Player significantly further for the teams with the most demanding review requirements. Teams can now open and review image sequences directly in the player at full fidelity. And color profiles are supported via OpenColor IO, so you can also view the sequence in the intended color space, not a browser's interpretation of it. And if you want to send an image sequence into Iconik, a web proxy can be created for the broader team to review, and all annotations, comments, markups, and color profiles applied to the image sequence itself in the player will travel with the proxy back into Iconik. And from there, you can run a synchronized review session with somebody on the proxy in Iconik Web and somebody viewing the image sequence in the player, locked together in real time on the same frame and the same moment, but viewing different formats. So I would like to briefly pause again to bring in a video from our SVP of Studios, Rory, who can show you both this image sequence workflow and the DRM and forensic watermarking measures in Iconik.
Thanks, Chris. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. We'll have a look at the Iconik Player, but first we're going to have a look at the DRM and forensic watermarking settings in Iconik. Those can be found under Settings and under our Enterprise Security tab here. So you can see we have forensic watermark and DRM. They can be enabled separately or together. When forensic watermark is enabled, it will apply an invisible watermark to all of our image and video content, and it's unique per user. So it will enable us to identify the source of any content from a single screenshot of either an image or a video, a single frame of that video, and it will enable us to identify the source if that's ever needed. Secondly, DRM, digital rights management, that will disable screen recording, screen capture, and screen sharing of any of our video content in Iconik. So the combination of DRM and forensic watermarking is very powerful for security. You can also see we have the hardware DRM sitting here. That's simply to allow customers who want to be able to use external monitors or external devices attached to their machine. It will still disable screen recording, screen capture, and so on, but it will allow you to play out to an external monitor or projector, which is normally disabled under DRM conditions. Okay, so next we have the Iconik Player, which is our desktop app for playback of original content, either from the cloud or from our local Iconik storage gateway. So we can play back files locally, and we can also play back files that are not part of Iconik yet. And we can use the player as a way of importing those files into Iconik and publishing them as an asset. And I'll show you how that works with an image sequence. So we have a sequence here of EXR files. These are individual frames which can play back as if they were a video. So we can annotate as we would a normal asset, we can add comments, say fix this, and we can run through and make our notes as normal. We can also apply color tools inside the player. So if we're bringing in EXR files that don't have their own color space applied, we can bring in a OCIO config. This is loaded as a grayscale. You can see we have a bunch of different options here as far as looks are concerned, and also as far as output color spaces are concerned. And whatever we apply within this will also be baked into the video when we export this out to Iconik. I'll show you that process now. So this file is sitting in our local files in the player. If we hit the upload button, it will start the upload to Iconik. We choose the collection that it's being transferred to. We choose the video file that we're rendering out from this image sequence. We choose where it's being stored, resolution of the file, the eventual Iconik storage gateway that it's being stored to. This is going to be run on an ISG on my local machine. And we can see where our file path is. And now if I hit upload, this will go off. It will generate the proxy, and it will start the upload. Okay, and now that's done, we can see what that looks like inside of Iconik. So if I bring up my Iconik browser, if I go to the project we created and open the asset, you can see now we have a rendered proxy video inside of Iconik. This has been rendered directly from the image sequence that we uploaded. And you can see we have the comments that we created and the annotations we added. So that's all been transferred across as part of the publish process. And if I open up the Files tab here, you can also see we have an original ProRes, we have a Premiere Pro proxy, we have the image sequence itself, all the individual frames are all tracked on the ISG, and we have our H.264 proxy here as well. So it's created a complete asset with all of our comments, all tied together in one place, and all as part of that single export. And that's the player updates. Thanks.
So two things you were showed there. DRM and forensic watermarking will be available in Iconik for Pro and Enterprise accounts from next week. So again, please reach out to our sales team or your CSM if you're interested in applying them to your account. The Iconik player is available today. If you'd like to try it out, just head to iconik.io/player to download. I'd like to move on now to another component of the review experience in Iconik, and that's the Iconik iOS app. Now, one common version of the broken review loop story we hear about kind of goes like this. Content gets captured in the field, and then it waits for someone to get back to a desk to upload files and get them into the system where the rest of the team can see them. By the time that happens, the moment might have passed or the feedback is late. That's why we built the new iOS upload capability. The Iconik iOS app now supports file uploads directly to S3, GCS, Azure, and B2 storage destinations right from your device. Upload support extends to shares as well, so external collaborators can contribute files without needing an Iconik login. So for teams working in the field, on set, at events, on location, that gap between capturing content and having it available in the Iconik managed library just got dramatically smaller. We're also working on bringing synchronized review to the iOS app. That's the ability to view assets in a remote review session interactively in real time with everyone seeing the same frame at the same time. That means you'll be able to join an Iconik review session from an iPhone or iPad, and the synchronized playback will work across the full platform with multimodal collaboration. So an artist in the Iconik player can view an original asset at full fidelity, a producer can work with a proxy in the browser, and an executive can perhaps jump in on an iPad. They can all be in the same session, locked to the same frame, to the same playhead, and collaborating in real time. So whenever that call needs to happen, wherever you are and whatever device you have access to, you'll be able to jump in and interact with the content and make those decisions in real time that help to move projects forward. Synchronized review is only available today across the Iconik Player and Iconik Web, but this unique iOS edition is going to arrive in the coming months, so please keep an eye out. And again, if you'd like to try Iconik on iOS, just search for Iconik in the Apple App Store and you'll be able to download it. Now, one thing that we heard could sometimes be a pain for those of you reviewing in a browser is that you can't always properly hear what you're approving when you're running 80 or 16 channel audio setups. Signing off that sort of sound in the web just hasn't been possible. You've had to download the file, open it in a separate tool, and again, in doing so, that review loop starts to degrade. That's not the case any longer. Both Iconik Web and the Iconik Player today support up to 16 discrete audio channels, each independently controllable. You can mute, solo, pan, and change volume per channel. That means you can hear what you're approving properly inside Iconik, inside the approval loop, with, again, no need to download and no separate tool required for those quick multi-channel audio checks. Now, I'd like to move on briefly to discuss how we've been improving search and access control in Iconik. To start with, I wanted to cover a new feature that's available to all Iconik users today, and that's multi-select filters with modifiers available in the filter panel. So the problem this feature solves is pretty cool. In Iconik, you can you've always been able to search multiple values, but until now, you couldn't easily tell Iconik how to apply those searches. You might want to include all values or any of them, or maybe you want to exclude one search term specifically. That level of precision was previously only possible by writing custom query syntax. But now this sort of logic is available directly in the filter panel and can be executed with just a few clicks. I'm now going to pass over to our technical account manager, Charlotte, who is going to be able to show you this in action.
Thanks, Chris. So let me show you guys what this feature actually looks like in practice. I'll walk through two examples that I think will demonstrate the power here pretty quickly. The first search that we're going to make is going to be to find all assets that aren't on an archive storage, but are present on at least one ISG. So what we'll do is we'll click on the storage field and we'll select both of our archive storages. And since we don't want any assets that are on these storages to be returned, we will choose exclude all of. The second part of our search is to find assets that are on at least one ISG. It doesn't necessarily need to be all ISGs, just one. So what we'll do is we'll select all of our ISGs from the list. And then, because we just want one ISG to be kind of the operator here, it doesn't need to be on all of them, we'll use include any of. And so now we'll be able to find all 57,000 assets that aren't on any archive storages, but are present on at least one ISG. Before, you used to have to use some advanced queries and click a whole bunch of buttons to try to get close to what you're looking for here. But now that we have this exclude any all of and include any all of, you can create a lot more customizable and powerful searches based on the storages. And the same is true for transcription text. We now have the ability to search for multiple words in a transcription at a time and use include and exclude on those individual words. So for the sake of this example, let's say we want to find all assets where the word people is mentioned, but the word animal isn't. So what we'll do is we'll type in people. And we'll leave that to include because we want to find assets where that word is said. And then we'll create another filter for animal. And we will select exclude because we don't want assets where this word is said. And so now we can find the 5 assets where the word people is mentioned, but the word animal isn't. And so I hope that both of these examples really demonstrate the power of being able to specify these advanced filters. You no longer need to understand advanced search query syntax, and you can now specify exactly what to include and exclude, and also have multiple values specified as well. And so I think this feature is really powerful in allowing you guys to create searches to find exactly the content you need in the simplest way possible. So I'll send this back to Chris, and he will walk you through the rest of our new features available to you.
Charlotte, so as Charlotte just showed, supported fields today include storage and transcription text, as well as confirmed persons from face recognition and the created by and deleted by fields. And we'll continue to add fields to this functionality as development progresses. One more thing before we move on, and this isn't a new feature, but I thought this was a good chance to give a reminder about it, because it's another powerful way to surface and organize media, and it's one of those features that can make a bigger difference than people realize until they're using it daily, and it's search views. So we released search views late last year, and what they do is allow you to save specific configurations for how assets are displayed in Iconik, meaning which columns are visible and how they're arranged, what metadata fields are surfaced. And then when you have those views saved, you can switch between them instantly. So a media manager working through an archive might want to see something different from a producer who just needs status and approvals. With search views, each of these views can be saved and then assigned at the user, team, or system level and loaded in a click. And as your metadata gets richer through transcription, face recognition, AI enrichment, the question of which metadata to surface to which people just becomes more important. Search views are just one more way to make sure that the right information is in front of the right person instead of overwhelming everyone with absolutely everything. If you haven't configured search views for your team yet, it's worth exploring. It's one of the highest leverage things an admin can do to make Iconik feel fast and intuitive for the people using it every day. If you would like to try it out, you can select the Edit View menu option on the top right of your search interface, which you can see highlighted there in the screenshot. Now, I want to take a moment to discuss access control in Iconik, as this is something that's changing in Iconik from next week onwards. If you're an admin, this is worth knowing about before it lands. We have been sending a series of emails to keep you informed, but I wanted to take this opportunity to give just another quick overview of how we're changing access control in Iconik and the capabilities that is going to bring to you. So over May and June, we'll be rolling out this meaningful update to how access control works. Up until now, access control was managed via groups alone, and they controlled who could see content and what actions users could take with that content via their roles. That was 2 jobs, but being managed under one system. And that can work fine at a small scale, but as organizations grow, managing both jobs in one place can get a little bit complicated to maintain. So we split those 2 functions cleanly. Groups are being separated into 2 dedicated systems. In the new approach, teams will handle access, that's who can see what content, while role groups will handle capabilities, what actions users can actually take with the content they have access to. So that's now 2 systems with 1 job each. I'm going to now share a video from our senior technical account manager, Ian, to walk you through how this works in practice.
Hi there, I'm Ian, and I'm going to show you where teams and role groups live in Iconik and how they actually work. As you can see, here they are under the admin dropdown. Now, you'll notice these are 2 separate items now, and that's because they serve 2 very distinct functions. Teams are all about access, or who can see what. Let's use an example here using these workspaces that have 3 different branches inside of them. If we utilize Iconik's switch to this user function, we can see what one of these users has access to. As we can see, Peter is able to see the help, library, and storage gateway collections. But let's suppose we want to give him access to that Atlanta branch's workspace. Well, we can pop back out, navigate to our Teams page, and find the Atlanta branch, and we can add Peter to that team. There we go. If we switch to his user again, we'll be able to see that Peter now has access to the Atlanta branch's workspace. Success. It's just that simple. Similarly, though, let's create a brand new collection called production assets. If I get back out of Peter's user and go back to my administrative user, production assets. Now, Peter wouldn't be able to see this right away, but if we utilize the access control lists and we add his team, production, his division, and we give them read and maybe give them write as well, permission, we'll navigate to his user once again and see Peter now has that view as well. So that's what teams are all about, is access control. But what if Peter wants to perform Iconik functions within these collections? Let's check out his role groups. We navigate to the role groups, and we see that there are three kinds of role groups: administrator, contributor, and browser. If we look at Peter, we can see that his role group is browser. Now, this role group is set up with very limited functionality within the platform. He cannot upload, share content, or even create a collection of his own. These actions are dictated by the role groups. Let's take a peek real quick just to show what we're talking about. There's no new collection creation button up here, no matter where Peter goes to, he navigates to. And there's no share button up here. Peter's going to need those options as a member of the production team. So why don't we bump his role group up from browser, take that off, and give him contributor. Now, if we go to his user one more time, we can see Peter's now able to upload. There's that button. If he goes inside the library, for instance, or inside production assets, he can create a collection, and he even has that helpful share button. These are all thanks to the Iconik functions provided by his new role group. To recap, teams control access, who sees what, and role groups control your capability, what you can do with that access. This extends way beyond collections, by the way, all into other areas of Iconik such as storages, transcoders, and much more. But that's another demo. Thanks for watching.
You, Ian. As I mentioned earlier, the migration to this new approach is happening over the next few weeks, and you should have been informed about it. The good news is that the migration is automatic. Existing ACL setups will be preserved. You don't need to do anything around your current users or ACLs, but it's just worth understanding how the new structure works. If you need any more information about this change, please reach out to your CSM or Iconik contact, and we'll be happy to provide more information. Now, we have just two more updates around Iconik, something kind of small and something pretty big. First off, billing. We know that teams wanted visibility into their plan usage and to be able to answer questions like how much storage have we used, or how many AI credits have we run through this month, and are we about to hit a limit? These are questions you should be able to answer yourself in real time, and the new billing admin page gives you exactly that. With the billing page, you can get a live view of your credit consumption across users, storage transfers, AI analysis, automations, and more, all measured against your plan limits, so you can see exactly how you're tracking against that plan. You'll find the view under billing in your admin settings. Domain owners will see it by default. Power users will need the can read billing permission in their role to access the view. And finally, to finish up on the Iconik side of this presentation, I'd like to touch on where we are with ISG Pro. For those not in the know, ISG is the Iconik Storage Gateway. It's our proven tool for indexing on-prem storage in Iconik's cloud. And as our Media Stats Report 2026 revealed, there are currently 96 petabytes of storage being run through ISGs today. Now, at NAB, many of our conversations were about AI, search, and publishing, but another topic that came up consistently was infrastructure. That's scale, complexity, hybrid workflows. Teams want to know if Iconik and the ISG can work at the serious scale and within these complex environments. With ISG Pro, the answer is yes. ISG Pro allows you to add multiple nodes in parallel on a single ISG. That means faster ingest, higher throughput, and basically wider pipes for all the content that might be thrown at an ISG. But it also means built-in failover. If one node goes down, the others can keep running. If you need to make updates to an ISG, you have that redundancy, so you can make the changes you need while the ISG continues to manage the throughput. And this ISG Pro makes Iconik's on-prem workflows even more viable at scale. And the work we're doing today is just phase one. There's going to be more coming to ISG Pro later, which is pretty exciting. And we'll let you know more about those developments as they come. For now, if ISG infrastructure is a conversation you want to have with us, again, please reach out to your Iconik representative, and we'll be happy to talk you through what's possible for your environment. ISG Pro will be available to all Iconik Pro and Enterprise customers who want to add it to their account within the next month. Right, I would now like to hand things over to Liz, our Associate Director of Product Marketing, to discuss the Wildmoka side of today's updates.
Great, thanks, Chris. So let's talk about Wildmoka. If the Iconik story is about managing, governing, and finding your media, the Wildmoka story is about what happens next. A live moment happens, a match ends, a press conference wraps, a key quote lands, and suddenly that content needs to become a YouTube clip, an Instagram reel, a Square social cut, an OTT asset, maybe versions in multiple regions, each with the right format, branding, captions, metadata, and destination requirements. The hard part is not just clipping the moment. Teams know how to clip. The hard part is everything that happens after that. Resizing it, branding it, captioning it, translating it, packaging it differently by destination, and getting it out while the moment still matters. And that's where Wildmoka fits in. It helps teams move from live or long-form content to destination-ready outputs faster, with fewer manual handoffs and fewer repeated production steps. And this quarter, we've shipped a significant set of updates across Clip Studio that make that workflow more repeatable. Faster clipping, better verticalization, transcript-based editing, AI-assisted captions and translations, and more control over how clips are prepared for each destination. I'll quickly walk through the highlights, and then I'll hand this over to Eric to show what it looks like in action. So to start, let's look at Clip Studio. Clip Studio is the clipping and publishing workspace inside of Wildmoka. It's where operators take moments from live feeds or files and prepare them for distribution across multiple destinations. And this quarter, we've completely rebuilt it. Clipping under pressure is extremely unforgiving. If your team is watching the stream in one place, cutting in another, resizing somewhere else, adding captions in another tool, and then manually uploading to every destination, every handoff costs time. The new Clip Studio brings more of that live to digital workflow into one single workspace. Users can clip, reformat, caption, translate, and prepare content for publishing with fewer downloads, uploads, and manual workarounds along the way. The headline is not just that Clip Studio has a new interface. The headline is that Wildmoka is making the path from moment, live, or file to published asset more repeatable. That means fewer one-off steps, more destination-ready outputs, faster movement from live or long-form content to the places audiences actually consume it. So let's get into the specific capabilities. One of the biggest workflow realities for media teams is verticalization. Most source content is still captured in landscape, but more and more destinations want 9:16, square, or other social first formats. And if teams are handling that manually, cropping, repositioning, rebuilding, checking every version, they're doing that work again and again for every clip and every unique destination. The new Clip Studio gives teams a more controlled way to turn horizontal footage into professional 9:16 and 1:1 outputs. Operators can split a clip into scenes and apply different layout templates to each scene. So one moment might use a full screen layout, another might use a split view, another might use thirds. They can also manually resize and reposition viewports within a scene, add animated subtitles designed for vertical mobile viewing, and insert B-roll images or branded visuals where needed. So the point here is flexibility. Teams can move quickly, but they still have editorial control. The output should not feel like a landscape video awkwardly squeezed into a vertical frame. It should feel like something intentionally prepared for the platform where it's going to live. And when you combine these manual controls with auto rezone, which we'll talk about next, teams get both speed and precision. Automatically generate a strong starting point, then refine where it matters. So auto rezone for clips is how teams get that vertical starting point faster. We have had auto rezone for live already available for quite some time. It can take a horizontal broadcast feed and transform it into a live vertical output in near real time. What's new this quarter is auto rezone for clips. That same automatic reframing capability, which includes scene detection, area of interest identification, and layout selection, can now be applied to file-based and clipped content inside Wildmoka's Clip Studio. So an operator can take a clip they've cut from a live feed or a file they've uploaded, select auto rezone, and get a vertically reframed version without starting from manual cropping. That's important because a lot of social publishing volume is not only live, it's also repurposing. It's highlights, interviews, press conferences, archive footage, podcasts, long-form assets that need to become short-form clips. Auto rezone for clips extends that same speed advantage to the content teams that are repackaging after the original moment has happened. Another important update is we have added transcript-based clipping. So now operators can clip directly from transcripts in Wildmoka. That means that instead of scrubbing through the timeline to find a quote or moment, they can select the words they want from the transcript and create the clip from there. For talk-heavy content, this is a big workflow improvement. Think press conferences, interviews, commentary, podcasts, panels, earnings calls, or any content where the key moment is tied to what someone said. It also makes the workflow much more accessible to people outside of traditional video editing roles. A producer, a journalist, or social team member may know exactly which quote they want. Transcript-based clipping gives them a faster way to find and pull that moment without relying entirely on timeline-based editing. So the benefit is not just speed, it's also access. More people can help identify and prepare the right moments while the workflow still stays inside Wildmoka's clip editor. The next area is captions and translations. Publishing to a global audience usually adds another layer of production work. You need captions. You may need translated versions. And every manual step between the live moment and the audience increases the chance that the content will arrive too late. Wildmoka now supports AI-assisted captioning and multilingual translation. AI captions can generate text captions from the audio track of a video stream or file. Then AI multilingual translation can translate those captions into multiple languages from the source transcript. So instead of starting from zero for every language or market, teams can use this AI functionality to create a first pass and move faster. This distinction really matters. It doesn't mean every team will remove human review entirely. For many organizations, especially around names, terminology, brand standards, or editorial sensitivity, the human review element still matters. But it does mean that now teams can dramatically reduce the amount of manual work required to create multilingual versions of the same moment. The practical value is simple. One clip can move into more markets faster while the content is still timely. For teams publishing across regions, that speed can be the difference between content that lands while the audience still cares and content that shows up after the conversation has moved on. The easiest way to understand this is to see the workflow end to end. Cut the moment, reframe it, add captions or translations, and prepare it for destination-specific publishing. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who will walk through what these updates look like inside the new Clip Studio.
Hi everyone, I'm Eric Oliveira, sales engineer here at Backlight. So let's take a look into the new Clip Studio, which we rebuilt from the ground up. So let me switch my screen and go to my web browser. And now let's take a look on the interface. So this is the new completely revamped interface. So the interface is much faster, pretty much oriented for editors, so you can easily browse your content. And editors can quickly create a in and out section that they are working with. And when we talk about creating content for digital distribution, social media most of the time are working with vertical. So here is our live signal. We work on the live signal in this timeline. We have quick preview on the live signal. At the same time, users can easily choose any aspect ratio they want to work with. So if they need to work with 1:1 square format or maybe a vertical format, they can do things very quickly. The process can be manually done, so you can quickly create the format that you need to work with. So let's say that in this specific session, I want to create a scene cut and select the style I want to work with, maybe a fit in 16:9 with blur background, or I just want to do a fill or fit in another format. All those video scenes as preset saves a lot of time. And instead of also doing manually, a lot of customers, they prefer just to leverage AI capabilities. So you can use also what we call the auto reson. Auto reson basically will scan the video content using AI and will find every scene cut and will apply the specific video layout. So in this case, you may see that the original content was 16:9 and then the vertical content now is fully verticalized with two different screens. Maybe the next one is just filling the video with one of the speakers, then the other one. So AI will do the recommendation, but you editors can still go on the manual process and do any change, including reframing capabilities. So let's say this video here, we want to remove the lower section, graphics package, we can just do change, and it can also animate with keyframes. So very quickly, we can create different layouts and different configurations, not only video, but also in many situations for social media, we want to be able to leverage AI to create transcriptions. So not only transcriptions, but also translations for multiple languages. So you can reach different audiences. So right here, I can just turn on the English transcription, or in case I want to look for the translation, we can easily do that. working with those captions is also really easy. Let's say I want to change those captions location. Maybe I want to put in a section up in the screen or a lower section. You can do those changes very easily, as well as you can work with multiple different color schemes, multiple different subtitles or captions, layouts and combinations. And we also have the safe zone capability, because most of social media today, users may face icons on the right side, text, and comments on lower section. So you can really rest assured that you have the proper content in your screen. So that's the very easy way how you can create vertical content using auto-resume for clips. You can manually reproduce, use those layouts, editor capability, reframe and keyframes, and also you can easily do change. So let's say I want to do a cut here on the timeline. I can do a cut, and also let's say I want to remove something. We can quickly create an exclusion zone. So instead of publishing the whole content, you can publish just a specific session. So that just illustrates how you can easily create your editorial content. You can also easily add text overlay, images, logos, fully capable not only for a single aspect ratio, but also for multiple aspect ratios. And in case of editors who would like to create content based on text, we also have text editing. So I can select a specific text right here from the closed caption or the transcription. I can do one in and out selection. Now my timeline has just changed because I select a specific session. So if I want to remove a specific sentence or word, I can easily remove. So editors can do the traditional video editing, or if there's anyone working much more on text-based, they can also rely on text-based editing. So that's just one quick example how you can leverage Wildmoka to produce your content at scale and at speed for multiple different platforms, including all the vertical requirements. And just going back to the webcam, I'd like to say thanks for the opportunity to show all the latest features that we have in Wildmoka.
Great. So that's the new Clip Studio. Before we move on to our Q&A section, I just want to quickly add a few additional Wildmoka updates that are worth calling out. I'd group these into 3 areas: more creative control, stronger live distribution workflows, and tighter Iconik Wildmoka integration. First, creative control. Lottie file support is now live in Wildmoka. That means that teams can upload existing Lottie files directly into the system and use them as editable overlays inside the Clip Studio. For teams already using motion graphics as part of their brand package, that makes it easier to bring those elements into the clipping workflow. Ken Burns' zoom effects that Eric showed also are now available for image viewports in the scene editor. So if you're using a still image inside a clip, you can add zoom motion and pacing without manual keyframing. Second is live distribution. YouTube SRT support is now live. Teams can stream from Wildmoka to YouTube using SRT alongside RTMP and HLS. The practical benefit of this is that SRT gives teams another option for reliable, low latency streaming while preserving YouTube monetization workflows. The Restream tool has also moved out of the legacy clip editor and into the Studio Hub. That means live streaming capabilities like Restream, live rooms, and channels are now consolidated into one place. And lastly, the Iconik Wildmoka integration. The Iconik Advanced Asset Upload is a good example of what tighter integration between the 2 platforms looks like in practice. Teams can now import assets from Iconik into Wildmoka with AI processing. This includes speech-to-text and auto-rezone, enabled at upload time. So assets that were not originally ingested through the Wildmoka pipeline can still be prepared for Wildmoka workflows. That's the broader direction. Iconik remains the place to manage and govern your media. Wildmoka remains the place to activate that media for live, social, digital, and destination-specific publishing. The through line is that Iconik and Wildmoka consolidate where they're strongest, integrate where it makes sense, and work together across the media lifecycle. One platform, fewer tools. Back to Chris.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Liz. So yeah, that's everything from us on the update side. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I hope what's come through is that we are bringing our tools closer together. There's a thread running through all of this. It's more connectivity between tools with fewer handoffs, less complexity, and more ways for teams to work with and distribute their content to the world. That's what we are building towards. So I would now like to bring in Mike Schleminski, our field CTO, to help speak to your questions. Mike's obviously deeply involved in the technical side of many of these features. He spent a lot of time with customers working through real implementation challenges. So if your question is specific, he's the right person to ask. I know the questions have been coming through as I've been speaking. I'm going to do my best to address everything by topic so we're not jumping around. And I'm also aware we went about 10 minutes over. So we have 5 minutes scheduled, but we'll keep answering your questions as long as you are available to stay on and listen. So yeah, hello, Mike.
Hey, everyone.
Let's go full screen here. So let's start with the publish panel because that's where most questions came through. I think we've got about 8. I'll try and order these in a way again, so we're not jumping around too much. But Sam Levine asks, is the publish panel part of the Iconik Pro license, or do they need to have their rep do another upgrade?
Yeah, so when we release the publish panel in the upcoming future, it's going to be available to Pro and Enterprise users as a paid add-on. So you will purchase it, and then it'll be more or less a one-size-fits-all, and that will add on the publishing functionality that we've shown in the webinar today.
Cool. Jordan asks, will there be publish automations? For example, an asset is approved with metadata added, so publish to Instagram with a template.
Yep. So the good news is on launch, we will have a automation action in the Iconik automation engine that will be allowed to publish. So based on the rules that you can set up in an Iconik automation, that will automatically set up publishes for templates.
Cool. In asks, having these publish options for social media users will be a security nightmare for us. Is there any way we can disable it?
Well, I think it's actually kind of an interesting question because I would actually argue that it fixes your security nightmare. The publish panel takes all of the kind of authentication away from users to social media platforms, and control is provided by roles and access rights in Iconik. So even if you did have it turned on, the only users that would be able to use it would be based on the roles and rights that you give them. And simultaneously, you put the credentials into a secure credential store, so they never actually need to access the social media accounts themselves. So a big benefit of the publish panel is not just the ability to publish, but the ability to control who can publish and when.
Cool. Jordan also asks, does each export via the publish panel produce a new asset?
So we're having a new type of asset called a post, so that you will be able to go backtrack and quickly link to all of the outputs that you've created within the system. There's a little bit of final design left to do on that, whether that's just native assets that are searchable as their own standalone assets, or if they're always parented to the original source. We're kind of playing back and forth. There's good kind of arguments on both sides, the benefit there. But short answer is yes, you will be able to find the content that you have published and the links that are the outcome of those publishes directly in Iconik.
Cool. And 2 more from Jordan. First is there a view to bring auto rezone viewport and viewport functionality into the Iconik publish panel in the future?
Yes. So this is just the start for us with the publish panel. We have a pretty long roadmap of great functionality that we want to bring over. The things that we think that would be really valuable for repurposing existing content that lives in Iconik. So this is just kind of the start.
Cool. And also, will burning transcriptions into published clips as subtitling be available via the panel?
Yeah, so templates do support the creation of automatic burn-in of subtitling. So as long as your template supports that, we can support that as well.
Cool. There's two other questions about the panel, but I think they're more about how it gets enabled, how if it's ready to use. I think we've kind of covered those in your answers already. So moving on to forensic watermarking, D asks, how do we remediate and trace back when something forensically watermarked gets out?
Yep, so we will have a support endpoint to basically kick off a process. It'll be a pay per incident scenario because it does require quite a bit of work on our end to do that forensic tracking. And then through that process, we'll identify exactly where the root asset was, generate a report, and deliver that back to the customer.
Cool. On the Iconik player and image sequences, Trevor asks, when pulling high-res media on local storage, is this pushed through the ISG or does it connect directly to the local storage? And also, how does this affect performance, and is the caching on ISG available?
So the ISG just is a reference tool. It's not actually, nothing pushes or pulls through the ISG. So if your image sequence or ProRes video is available on a SAN or a NAS, then you're going to directly link to that in the Iconik desktop player. You're not going to need to copy any data. Now, if that data lives in object storage in the cloud, then obviously somebody needing to use that would have to download it. But the Iconik desktop player also does local encryption. So if that file gets downloaded and stored in a session, even if it's a high-res file, it's completely useless outside of the player session itself. So it's got a local private encryption key that only the player can open.
Cool. Next, regarding the include and exclude options from Tom, is there a timeline for when the include and exclude options will be available for the keywords field?
Not a formal timeline, but I can tell you that we're trying to get as much of this functionality out as quickly as possible, and we didn't want to hold out getting it to our customers by doing, all of the different fields because they all have different levels of complexity. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see more of this coming out this summer as we do more and more releases. We've already done 2 releases. The last 2 releases have had storage and now some of the new functionality around faces. So we're going to bring more and more of it in as soon as reasonably possible. It's pretty active development.
Cool. Okay, that's all of the Iconik questions we have at the moment. If anybody else does have any, please do share them. We can answer them. But moving on to the couple of Wildmoka questions we've got through. So David asks, he says he's not familiar with Wildmoka. Can Wildmoka grab assets directly inside Iconik and export back to Iconik for publication? For example, web-based end-to-end asset management and video editing for our users.
So yes, if you have both a full Wildmoka license as well as an Iconik license, you can do round tripping between the two. There's a native connection between the two. I wouldn't say that the editor is a full stack creative storytelling editor. It is meant for repurposing. So basically taking content that already exists and doing cut downs, highlights, and rapid kind of repurpose of content. That's where the Wildmoka clip editor really sings in its environment. So if that's what your need is, then the answer is absolutely yes.
Cool. And D asks, will the transcript-based edits be able to be brought into the NLE via XML for further editing?
Not currently. There's no way to kind of link that live stream data back to NLEs, but we do have that kind of as something we'd like to do in the future.
Cool. I see new questions come through from Alexandria too now. First off, will the new ACL feature teams and role groups still include the advanced view to select functionality?
So role groups will. So yes, as far as individual roles, not just the kind of groupings section. So you'll be able to go down and add individual roles to everybody. Teams will have the traditional, I would say, I don't know if it's actually called advanced, but in the lower half of that groups menu where you set defaults and set primary like options for users. So there'll be no functionality change when we roll this out. It's really to make provenance a lot easier to set up within the system.
Cool. And also from Alexandria, does the ISG Pro show the traffic and volume analytics in the multi-node support?
So it doesn't have super rich like graphing right now. It's essentially the same amount of information you kind of get from the ISG as it stands right now, but it is broken down by node, so you can see what each node is doing in the initial release. We do have plans to make that more visible over time.
Cool. I see Alexandria is typing, so maybe she's just no, just to say thank you. Okay, I think we've run through every question we've had there. So unless I see any others pop through in the next minute or so, I think all that remains is to say thank you to everyone for joining and for being with us here and learning about everything we're working on across both Iconik and Wildmoka. If you do have any follow-up questions that you haven't managed to get answered today, then do please reach out to your account team, your CSM, our support team. We would be able to get you the answers that you're looking for. We will send out the recording soon, along with any links to relevant resources. So yeah, all that remains to say is thank you again, and we will see you all at the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.